Okay. Uh, this first one we will work on what we call scenario manager. Okay. So say it again. No. Is it missing there? Oh yeah. I don't know how to fix that. Maybe what I can do here is maybe I can do like that, maybe. Can you see now?
Yeah, you're limited to 125.
Well, if your screen full screen. Oh, that's full screen. I got the window.
Can you see now?
You're zoomed into 125%. I don't know
Yeah,
how.
you just scroll over.
No, but that one will just do the spreadsheet, right? Like for example, if I go view here, it's gonna,
Just make it 100.
yeah, it won't do it. It's a projector. Yeah, but you see it now, right?
Well,
It's not visible.
The yellow part was cut off. The yellow box is cut off.
No, it's not cut off. It starts right there.
But we can't see
We
column
Oh, I'm
A.
sorry. I'm sorry. How about
There
that?
we go.
Good, right? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's get started here. This is typical what we call a break-even analysis. Okay, so like you have your units, you have variable cost, fixed cost, revenue per unit, and your job is to find out the total cost, total revenue, and the profit. Okay, so I guess most of you know the formula. Equals total cost equals fixed cost plus quantity times variable cost. Okay, so how much is the fixed cost there?
4,500.
4,500 plus how much quantity?
500.
500. How much is the variable cost?
55.
55. So that's going to give you that answer. And total revenue equals Q times R, which is Q, I know 500 times R is what? 60, right? So that's going to give me the next cell, which is 30,000. So this is 32,000. This is 30,000. Okay. And total profit in this case is going to be minus negative 2,000, right?
Mhm.
So that's how you do it. Now, often you want to perform what if analysis, right? What if the price changes from 55 to 50, right? How much is going to affect my profit? What if my unit price changes from 60 to 55? How that's going to affect my profit? What if my quantity changes from 500 to 1000? How will that affect my profit, right? So often, if you do like that, you lose the earlier information, right? There is no way you can store it, right? So that's exactly where the scenario manager comes into the picture. It takes a snapshot of what you're doing and put it side by side so that you can compare all the numbers. Okay, so let's do it. This is gonna make it more clear. So for example, we go to data here, right? We go to what if, drop this one down, and you will see the scenario manager there, right?
Mhm.
And I already have those three, but you can delete those. So we're gonna do our own. Okay?
You can delete them all?
Yeah, because we'll just start afresh here. So each scenario is one snapshot of what if analysis. Okay? So for example, we're gonna say add here. You can name whatever you want. I'll just call it set one. Okay, but you can name whatever you want. And then we have to choose the changing cells. These all cells are changing cells, okay, because my units going to be changing, variable cost will be changing, fixed cost will be changing, revenues or revenue per unit will be changing as well. Okay, so say okay here, and then you have to set the price. For example, this as is a default now. Okay, this is in this window you will specify what scenario you want to create. So for example, let's say I want to say my variable cost is increased from 50 to 55, my revenue increased to 60, my fixed cost increased to 5,000. Make sense? That's one scenario. Okay. Right. So I'm going to say okay here, and it's going to create a scenario. Okay. Let's add two more scenarios so that we can compare side by side all the scenarios. So I will go to add here. This is set number 2 here. Changing cell is the same, right? Say okay here. Now I'm going to change my units to 800, right? Variable cost to, let's say, I will leave the variable cost as 50, but I will increase the fixed cost to 5,000 and revenue to 60, right? So you can create many different scenarios like that, whatever you might be interested at. Okay. Let's add one more scenario here. Add set. You can have as many scenarios as you want. Okay. Say okay here, and we're going to change it to, let's say, this is variable cost goes to 60, revenues goes to 70, and rest we'll just leave it like that. Okay. You can just choose any number that you wish. Okay. So say okay here, and then we want to create the summary so that we can see all these details side by side. Okay. I'm just going to close here before I run the summary, because we should have added the what we call cell numbers. Otherwise, see this one. Okay, I already have it. Okay, I already have it. So again, I will go to the data, what if analysis, scenario manager there, right? Click on summary here, and I want the summary table, scenario summary here. The result should be this one. That's where we have to change this result cells to B6 to B8. That's my result cells. Okay. And say okay here. So it's going to create a nice little scenario as you see there, right? Your current values, right? So you can see side by side the comparison and choose the best scenario among many different scenarios, right? This is one of the very powerful tools we have here. Obviously here, I guess we did something wrong. At least I did something wrong here. The revenue was too high here. So I can always go back to what if analysis, scenario manager, and fix that one. Right. I can go to edit here, right? Say okay here, here, I want it 60, right? And then again, you have to get the summary table here. B6 to B8, they are the results I want, and it's going to create the summary for here. So for example, for this set, it's no profit, no loss, right? So you know where or what is your break-even point here. For this particular set, you're making the most profit. So you need to see, like, maybe this could be a more appropriate scenario in your case.
Are you making profit if it's not negative?
A profit could be negative at times, but here we don't have negative.
Okay, because the first profit was 2,000. It was in brackets.
No, that was here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess I changed before setting the scenario, so it took that particular
So
value
it's
for
a
me.
profit even though it's not a negative amount.
If it is a negative, it's a loss.
Oh, okay. So we started off with a loss.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We started with the loss, but before I could set my scenarios, I changed the values here. So it took those values default in my case. Okay. And one thing you have to keep in mind is, always name your cells. we see here these names here, they are not just being generated automatically. I named those cells, okay? And the easiest way to name those cells are, just click on any cell here and type the name here, units. This is variable cost. This is fixed cost. I name them, okay? Are you guys with me? Or easier way to name is just select the entire table, right? And then go to the formulas, create from selection, and check the left column. So it's going to create all the name cells for those particular cells. That's a quicker way to do it, okay? But it makes your report more meaningful. Now you know what you're referring to. Are you guys with me?
How did you edit the profit amount?
You go to, I guess you had to go to sheet number 1 and then go to data, what if analysis,
Oh, okay, you have to
and
do
scenario
what-
manager.
What if analysis from sheet 1?
Yes,
Okay, okay.
I guess. Okay. So that's all you have basically about the scenario manager. Okay. Any questions here? Okay. So I will start working on the second one. Right. Okay. So this is what we call typical break-even analysis. Often you want to know where you're breaking even. Make sense? For example, if you remember from operations management or any other classes, this runs like that, right? This is your revenue line. And then this is your total cost line. Right? So here you have quantity. And here you have dollar. Right? Right? Often you are interested in finding this point here, which is your break even point. There is no profit, no loss zone.
Oh, I wish I knew this in my calculus class.
Yeah, we do it in many different classes.
Just adding this would have been a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
I figured it out.
You'll see. Yeah, you'll see. It's a lot easier and very powerful tool as well. So as you might have noted here, this is your what? Profit or loss zone? Is that profit zone or loss zone? Loss. Yeah, because revenue is less than the cost, right? And this is your profit zone. So often you want to be in that particular zone. Okay. So what we're going to do here is for a given problem, what we can do is we can create a data table. Okay. Now I will create one variable data table and two variable data tables. The data tables, they are Excel objects, and I will show you how to create them. Okay. So first thing first, I will delete everything so that we can start from the scratch. So I'm going to hit the delete here. Okay. I will delete all these numbers here. Okay.
Did you just open another file? 'Cause I don't have that.
Yes,
Oh,
this is
okay.
number 2.
That's what it was.
Right. Yeah. I will delete the other all the information that we have here. Okay. Okay. So this is also we're going to delete it. Okay. So now all the tables are empty, right? You want to plot a chart like this. Okay, you want to have the revenues. Now you know the formula of the revenue, right? This is my formula for the revenue, right? This is my formula for the total cost. Are you guys with me? Right? So I'm gonna take this formula and I will vary the quantity. I know my revenue per unit is fixed. I cannot change that one. And here fixed cost is fixed. I have variable cost, which per unit is going to be fixed, right? The only thing is going to be changing is Q. Does that make sense to you? So what we will do is we'll create a data table where we will vary the Q and capture our output for total cost and total revenue, and you'll see how easy it is. So here basically you need a table like that, okay, where we'll create the one variable data table. Okay, one variable data table simply means that you have one variable as an input, okay, but you can have n number of variables as an output. That's the beauty about one variable data table. Are you guys with me? So what we're gonna do here is basically here we're gonna list our output. What is that we want to capture? Obviously, we want to capture total cost and total revenue. So here what I would do is total cost is equals to, I'm just gonna pass on that reference. Okay. Remember, passing on reference for the output is must. Otherwise, your data table will not work. Okay. And total revenue equals this cell here. Are you guys with me? So that's going to be my total revenue. And here, this cell will be blank. Okay, we have to leave it blank. But here, I will vary my units. For example, I'm going to say my units are starting from 0, 100, right, 200, and I can go all the way to 1000. Let's say that. Are you guys with me? Right? So this is basically a structure. You need to create one variable data table. Are you guys with me?
How do you get it to count by 100?
You can just usually you just enter first three values
Oh, okay.
and then you can drag it down. It will fill it up by itself. Okay.
Mhm.
So are you guys with me now?
Mhm.
Okay. So let's do that. I'm gonna select this entire table here, and you know what we are doing. I want to find total cost and total revenues for all these units. Are you guys with me? And I want to use one variable data table for that. So if we go to data here, what if analysis, and there is something called a data table. Okay. So we will click on this data table here, and our input cell is in a column format. You can see here, right? Looks like a column. So I'm going to leave my cell row cell empty. I will go to my column input cell because my values are listed in column, and I will select that input which these values are referring to. That's cell number B1. Okay, this is a very critical step. Okay, so you have to pass on the reference, and this reference must be used by total cost and total revenues, which in our case they are using it because we have used the formulas. Are you guys with me? Right? Ask me questions if you don't understand anything here. Okay, and say okay here, and it's gonna fill it up. Right? It's not working.
I did something wrong. Mine didn't give me numbers, it just said total cost and total revenue. Just repeated the total. Okay, let me do it.
Let's say variable cost, I can reduce this to 50, and it's dynamic. It's gonna keep changing.
Did you pick the entire table?
Yes, you have to pick the entire table like this.
The entire table, left the row input cell empty. I picked the
Yeah.
unit price as my column input cell,
Yes.
and it just repeats it. It says total cost, total cost, total cost, total revenue, total revenue.
You will pass the reference, right? You will pass the reference. This is total cost. You just pass on this one. Yeah, and it's dynamic. If you just change your let's say maybe 50, it's gonna change or paste those things that only do it.
I don't know what you did differently, because it worked now. Okay, got it.
So now what we have to do is we have to create a graph like this. Are you guys with me? Because we have those values for the quantity, right? We have quantity. We know our revenues. We know our total cost. So we know all the data that we are supposed to know to plot the chart, right? So we should go ahead and plot the chart here. So what I'll do here is I will select this entire table, including my headers, okay? Because I want to use those headings there. And then I will go to insert, and we have to plot the scatter chart, okay? So I will use this one, scatter chart with straight lines. Are you guys with me? All right, so it's gonna plot those lines for me. Are you guys with me? So I'm gonna,
Yeah, my scatter chart should have lines on it.
yeah, this, when you click on the scatter chart, the last one, scatter chart with straight lines, right?
Okay.
Are you guys with me? All right, so it's gonna give me that nice little chart here. All right, so I know that my break-even point is somewhere here, right? Maybe somewhere, maybe my unit should be around 400 or 5, near 500, right? So let's do that, fix that one. You know the formula for break-even point. So what we're going to do is we will plot the break-even point right on the chart so that we know where the break-even point is. Right now you have to kind of do the guesswork, right? So break-even point, I can write down here. Break-even point equals what you call fixed cost divided by R minus V. Okay. So this is revenue per unit, this is variable cost per unit, and that's your fixed cost. Okay. So we'll use that formula here. So here I will say equals, what is my fixed cost? Right? I'm just gonna pass on that reference. Right? Divided by open parenthesis, say revenue per unit is 60 minus variable cost. Right? So it gives you 450. Right? And the revenue for that break-even point is how you calculate the revenue? Quantity times revenue per unit, right? So I know my revenue here, quantity here times revenue is 60. Are you guys with me? So that's gonna give you that one. And we should always format this to show the dollar symbol here, and this is just a number, so we don't need to worry about it.
Can you show me the equation again for the break even?
Yes. FC divided by revenue minus variable cost. I'm just pass. Remember, my cells are named. Okay, that's why I'm seeing those FC, revenue variable cost. Okay.
That's helpful.
Yeah, it's very helpful if you name the cells. And here I'll show you a little trick how to create a dynamic label. For example, here I can say equals to, in quotes, break even point colon. Hold on. I'm gonna give some space there within double quotes and symbol, and I'm gonna append that with this one. Okay, So basically what I'm doing here is I'm gonna say equals, I'm appending two strings, quotes, double quotes, break even point, colon, space, double quotes close. Ampersand is used to connect with another string. So this is my one string. I'm connecting it with another string, which is break even point quantity, which is in this case 450. Are you guys with me? So what it's gonna do, it's gonna concatenate these two strings and give you a final answer as like this, something like that. BP colon 450. Are you guys with me?
Except that I didn't take out the formula that was originally on the sheet,
Okay.
and it says,
It could be
at
small.
the ampersand, it says round.
Yeah, you can use a round or whatever, but simply round simply is, if you have fractions, you want to round
Okay,
it
so
up.
that's not necessary.
Yeah, because here we are dealing with the integers anyway, whole numbers anyway. So, huh? So that it gives me that thing, right?
Okay.
That's what I did. It's concatenating these two strings. Okay. Are you guys with me? Okay. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna plot this one on the chart. Okay. To do that, what we have to do is go to the design. We have to click on select data, right? And we'll add one additional series here. So we'll click on add here, right? And I'm gonna give my series name. So I'm just gonna pass on this label which I just created. All right, that looks like a good name, right? And then I'm gonna, my X value is going to be break even units, which is this one, and my Y value is going to be 27,000 revenue. Are you guys with me? So I'll say okay here. And okay here. So you plotted just that particular data series, but you cannot see it because that's just one point. Make sense to you? How would you see a point? So what we're gonna do is we'll do some trick here. So what we are going to do here is go to the format, okay? And then here from the chart areas, drop it down and select our series. Do you see it there? Break even point 450. Do you see it there? Right? So I will select this one and it's highlighting that point. Do you see? Did you notice that? Then I'm gonna click on format selection. All right. So this will open up this dialog box here, and all I need to do is I need to make the marker solid and give it a color. So I would go to this particular option here, fill and line, click on marker, right? Then go to the marker options. You can use built-in. You can choose anyone you want. Let's say this one. You can increase the size a little bit if you want. And then I will go to the fill here. I will select, I want to have the solid fill, and you can change the color if you want. All right. And you are done. If I close this format data series dialog box here, I'm done. The beauty about this thing, my friend, is very dynamic. What does that mean? Let's change these things to 1000, and it's going to change your charts dynamically. Should change your charts dynamically. Do you see that? All right. Say 75. You see, it's dynamic. It's changing all the data for you.
The only thing I missed is when you pull something out of the list on the left.
About the data series.
Yeah, when you were doing the break even, it was something you pulled out of the style, it's like something you pulled out of the list on the okay or something.
Okay. So what you do is you go to format here. You go drop this name down. And did you give a name to that series? What did you call?
Whatever was in it, I didn't name it.
I think it was chart area, you went to format and then chart area.
Okay, thank you.
I guess you did you add? Did you add?
What the heck?
Let's see what you- this one.
I had an error when I hit okay.
So you have that one. Now I can go to format and
Oh, that's why I didn't have it, okay.
yes. And then I can format the selection.
Mhm.
And then I can go to the fill and line.
I got the rest.
Yes. Marker and
I just couldn't find that select series.
yes.
I missed the part when you click on the chart and then you did design and select data. What did you do when you were in there?
About this particular point,
You clicked on the chart, you went to design, then you went to select data
I went to the format.
before that.
Let's plot it again at this point, right? So I go to the design, I went to the select data here.
Right, yeah, what did you do when you went in there?
I added a data series. So you click on add
Okay,
here, and the name, you can just give it this one,
and that, okay.
and X value is going to be break-even point, and Y value you have to take this one out and say this one.
That's the same thing I did, that's why I wasn't getting it.
Yeah. So it's gonna add that particular data series. Now if you say, okay, here you should see a data series by this name. Okay, do you see it there? Right? Now all you have to do is say, okay, here, you go to format, then you see the chart area here. Okay, cool. So I guess this is very powerful and easy to do it, and it's very dynamic, right? Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages with the one variable data table. In one variable data table, you can only vary one variable. Okay, so here we are varying the unit, changing the unit, but you can have n number of outputs. So in this case, we just have two, but you can have 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to note down to. Okay, we can have two variable data table where we can vary two variables instead of one. Okay, at the max you can vary two variables, and you can note the measure of interest. In this case it's profit. Okay, how to do that? Here in this case, this cell we left it blank here. Okay, but in this case we're going to use that intersection cell, and we're going to put our output that we want to capture there, profit. So I'm just going to say equals to profit. It's not visible, but that's equals to profit. Okay, so that's going to list the profit. Here let's say I want to vary my variable cost. So variable cost I can vary from, let's say, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. Okay, so remember this green input variables, we are hard coding it, they are not the reference. Okay, but these are being used by this formula here. Okay, and here the quantity we're gonna say 0, 100, and can I just create a series of this one? Yes, I can select those two and just go down, right? It's gonna, so I'm varying my quantity from 0 to 1200. Are you guys with me? Right, so always keep in mind this output should be a formula, input should be hard coded. Okay, but this input like variable cost and units, they must be used by the output somehow. Are you guys with me? And how we are using that in our output? Output is B7 minus B6, which is total revenue minus total cost, right? But if you go to total cost, you see we are using that B1 there, right? So indirectly it's being used for the profit. Are you guys with me? Okay. So now what we have to do here is select this entire data table here, right? Go to data here, what if analysis, data table here, right? In this case, we have to have row input cell. So row input cell is a variable cost, right? So I'm gonna say, okay, this is this one here. I have to pass the reference to input cells. Okay. It takes it absolute by default. Okay. So because I'm not doing anything, just putting the dollar symbol by itself. Column is the units. That's why I'm going to pass on B1. Okay. And if you click OK here, it's going to fill up the entire table. Not only that, it will highlight the negatives with a different color, right? And there is a break even point here. And then rest of the table is going to show you the profit. Right? So this is again a very good powerful tool in Excel to create two variable data tables. Okay. So you guys have any questions here? Okay. So should I move on? Let's go to another one here. Let's see this one. So again, what I'm going to do here is here we'll talk about a little bit about forecasting, how you do the forecasting, what tools and techniques you use it, and how you plot it. Okay. So forecasting is often like a what you call time series plot. So one axis you have the time, and on the other axis you have the sales data or whatever is a measure of interest. Okay. And you want to see the pattern, how it's going, and obviously forecasting means you want to predict the future value. Does it make sense to you? So there are different tools we use. Here we're going to use moving average. For example, what we're going to do here is let's delete this one first here. I'm just going to delete that data here. Okay, I will delete this chart here so that we can create it, right? So for example, if I gave you this data here, okay, all the data here, and I ask you, okay, give me the prediction for May 13. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to quickly do the moving average and find out the forecast and see the trend on the chart. So it could be 3 months, it could be 1 month, it could be 2 months. There is no standard guideline. It depends on how sensitive your data is to the seasonal pattern. Okay, if it is changing very fast, then you don't want to have big 3 or 4 months. You want to have it smaller. If the data is not fluctuating much, then you can have a bigger months. Does it make sense to you? So it all depends. There is no one unique formula for that. But here, let's stick to 3 months. So what I'm saying is on the 4th month, I can do my first prediction. Okay. So here I'm going to say equals, I'm going to simply use simple average formula here. Average of these 3. Okay. Now, my question to you, should I make it absolute? Should I make it relative or what?
Relative.
Should be relative. Why? Because
You want it to change as you move it down the page.
exactly. So if I make it absolute, then let's make it absolute and see what happens. So I'm going to say here absolute, right? And then I'm going to hit enter. And then if I double click here, it's going to fill it up. But what it's doing is referring to the same formula. If you do F2 here, it's referring to the same cell because it's fixed, right? Now let's make it what we call relative. So here I'll go here, I will highlight these things here and press F4, right? And hit enter. Now as I moved on, those cells will move on as well, and it's going to give me all the values. And since it's relative, if you go here, press F2, it's using those three cells. Okay, so that's the beauty about using absolute and relative referencing here. Okay, so this is the way you create what we call moving averages, and then you plot it. So basically what I'm going to do here is, let's plot this one. I will select all of them here. Okay, as you may have noticed, you can only forecast for one additional month. Okay, and that makes sense. You don't want to forecast 2 or 3 months in advance, because then you might be missing out, or you being too biased, you might be missing out the important information which has not happened yet, right? It's easy to predict the next month, you agree with me, right? But it's very difficult to predict 6 months down the line. Okay,
You got a crystal ball.
yeah, exactly, you know. So we need to be as conservative, our predictions as possible. There is no one standard rule, you know, it all depends on the data, your experience, your intuition that you may have. So you select that one here, go to insert here, and obviously we're gonna plot scatter chart with straight lines and markers. Okay,
Could you just tell us what's the difference between the two? The one we just did?
you know, it is without the marker, it doesn't show the marker. You see the straight
Oh,
lines?
it's just that.
Yeah,
one
just
has
that.
marker.
Here it just shows me the points, each data point. That's the only difference. Okay, and you can make it bigger here if you want, right? So basically this kind of smoothing out the variations, right? That's what it does. 3 months, and then you can see the four here. The May 13th is going to be somewhere around 104. That's a prediction, right? Are you saying that why we are using 3 months moving average? Because it's kind of smoothing out the variations in the data, and it's going to give us a good prediction. It may not be accurate, but it's going to be close, right?
Can I ask you something that it doesn't show here? Is there any way to show the peaks?
There should be a way. I need to look into it.
Okay.
But as you see here, in this case, the peak is going to be what? This one?
And actually show the data for just the
You
peaks?
can show the data. You can show that. For example, let's go. Let's add data labels. Let's see if you can.
Or it shows them all?
Yeah, it's gonna show them all.
There's no way to just do
But I guess there should be. I don't know. Like if
Okay,
you go
that's fine.
here,
But you have it easy. Okay.
you can always do a bunch of things here. You know.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, but we need to play with it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the reason it doesn't make any sense here. So we're not gonna do that. Okay. Now how to take this one? I'm just gonna do undo. Sometimes undo is helpful. Okay, so this is the moving average. Let's go to forecast with trend. Okay, so I'm gonna delete these two things here. Okay. Okay. Now this is where I will test your statistics knowledge. All of you have worked with what we call regression, right? Regression. Now it finds the best fit line. If you want to find the relationship between two variables, you know, remember something like it's a scatter chart, but it gives you equation basically. You know? So again, the purpose here is not to teach you the regression, but often you have these many data points like that. So here you're making like number of calls as a salesperson, and your number of products sold, right? And you want to find out, is there a relationship between the two? And can I say that if you make more calls, you will make more sales? Okay. So what we're gonna do in that case is we're gonna do the regression and find out the equation. So it's gonna do the best fit line. You're gonna draw the best fit line from these points. Okay. And give you some equation like number of products sold equals 50 plus 4 times number of calls. It's going to give you that equation. Okay. And you can use that equation for future prediction. Okay, if I make my calls, number of calls 50, how much can I expect? Does that make sense to you? So forecasting and trending, they usually are based on that particular concept of least square method. Okay. So that's what we're going to do here. Now there is a formula here. We're going to use trend and forecast. Both are Excel functions. Okay, and they work very similar. Okay, like it's very difficult to find the difference, but even if it is, it's very minor. They work exactly the same here. How to use trend? I'm gonna say equals to trend here, right? I'm gonna make it a little bigger for you guys. Equals trend here, right? Known y values. So my y values are this one. So I'm just gonna select all the known y values. Okay, these are my known y values, right? And it's not gonna change it, so we're gonna fix that one. Okay, so known y values are known y values. It's not gonna change. Likewise, my known x values are going to be this one. All right. I'm gonna press F4 here, and my new x value, I'm just gonna click on this one, B7. I'm not making that one absolute, okay, because that has to be changing to get the trends. Are you guys with me?
So what is B7?
B7 is this one.
But what is it?
That's the point that's gonna be plotted on the line. It's gonna learn from the known values and accordingly find the best fit line and plot those values there. Okay. So if you hit enter here, double click it, send it down. Right. So you see it created the trend, and let's plot this one. So I'm going to click on this one, right? Select all the values here. We'll go to insert here. Let's say trend will always be a scatter chart like this with markers. Now you see the difference between the moving average and this one. Moving average is basically kind of smoothing out the variation, but still it's not a straight line. This one is giving you a straight line, and you can extrapolate as much as you want, which months you can do 6 months down the prediction. Okay, but you should be very careful doing it, because you might end up getting the wrong answer. Don't extrapolate too much. Okay, but that's the trend here. Okay.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by extrapolate?
Extrapolate means here for this particular month, what you're doing, you're extrapolating. You're going beyond the range, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. You're going beyond the range for which you do not have input values. You just develop the equation like that, like I showed you, and using that equation to find unknown values for the future.
You can't hang your hat on that.
Exactly, because things change. Right now the chart is uptrend. What if the chart started going downtrend? But this line is just going to go straight to infinity up. Okay, and that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you should not be doing that, or doing that with a pinch of salt. Okay, let's forecast here. It just uses a different formula, equals to forecast, right? my X value is this one. It just works a little differently, but basically it's the same thing. Okay, my known Y values, I will select all these values again, right? Press F4, comma, my known X values is going to be this one. Okay, press F4, right? And you are getting the exactly the same answer. Okay.
It's doing the same thing, except in reverse.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. The input parameters are a little different. If you do the Google search, they might tell you like subtle differences, but just different ways of doing the same thing, I would say. Okay. So we just did the trend here. Let's go to the next one. Thermometer chart. I did that last time, if you remember, right? So it's still on the video, so you can, I guess, go through the videos there. You want to do this one with the marker like target versus the data. It's very similar to thermometer chart. The only thing is, instead of creating this transparent thermometer, we are using bullets. That's the only difference. Okay. So my question to you, you want me to do that here right now?
Yeah,
Okay, which one you want me to do? Thermometer or this one?
this one, just show us.
Okay.
what you changed on the chart.
Let's do that. So this you might do it in your dashboard project. Okay. So for example, I'm gonna tell you, okay, your year-over-year sale increase should be around 10%. Okay. So that time you what you're gonna do is, let's say you have a data for 3 years. Let's say you have same year, so 2010, 2011, 2013. Okay. Let's say you had a sale of 100K here. Okay. And expected year, expected year, year. Okay. So for the first year, there won't be any target because this year is starting, right? You meet the target. But for the second year, the target is what?
10% more.
10% more, right? Make sense? So you might, let's say you had only 90,000, say, right? For the next year, what's the target? 10% of this one. Make sense? And let's see, this time you made 105K, right? So numbers is difficult, but if you plot a chart like that, it could be very more visible, right? Data visualization is always very powerful. It can make the chart understand better, right? So let's do that. Here, let's say
Sorry,
you,
before you start. So you're not forecasting right here. That's data you have.
yes, that's the data you have.
Okay.
Okay. But that's what I'm going to tell you in your dashboard project. So they gave you 3-year data. So I'll ask you, okay, let's assume 10% year-over-year sales increase. Plot the chart like this and show it on the dashboard, whether you're meeting the target or not. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So all you have to do is again select this one here. All right. Go to insert. The first thing I would do is plot the simple chart. Right? Let's do that. Now I'm gonna play with this chart here. What I'm gonna do here is select the target here. So I will go to change chart type here, right? Go to combo here. For the target, I'm gonna say give me lines with markers, okay? And I'm gonna put that on a secondary axis. Are you guys with me? Okay, and I'm gonna say okay here. Okay, so you got that one. I'm gonna select this series. I'm gonna delete this one. So I don't want that series there. Now all we have to do is just play with this line. So I will select that line there. Okay, go to format selection here, right? I'm gonna go to line here, say no line. Basically you're done.
Ah,
Yeah,
and
right.
then change the market.
And then you change the marker. So you can say marker, I want like particular fill marker option built in. Let's say I want to use squares. You can make it a little bigger here if you want, right? And then you can select a particular fill, right? Whatever fill you want. And then basically you're done, right? And then you can add all the bells and whistles. For example, you can make it very big here, right? And then you can go here, select the data itself, right? Click on the series option, increase the gap width, play with it. It's just a matter of playing with it. But basically it creates a kind of a bulleted target and show the performance against those bullets.
So the red is the target,
Yes.
the blue is your actual.
Yeah, the actual
and the
data.
red is the target
Yes.
you were shooting for.
Yes. Right. It's very similar to thermometer chart. It's a little different, but it's good way to compare the actual versus the targeted data.
When would you use something like that?
Like I showed you there, right? Often your management will always give you target, right? For example, you have actual sales data for this month. So next month you go to dealership, right? They predict, okay, based on this month's data, we want to surpass the sale by 10%. So
Okay,
you
so
set
you
a
are
target.
kind of forecasting.
Yes.
You don't really
10
have all the data.
No, so target will always be forecasted,
Okay.
right? A month in advance or a year in advance. Like 10%, if you say 10%, that's kind of rough estimate. Okay, we expect 10% increase every year, compared to previous sale. So you compare it where you stand using the chart like that. It makes it very visual, and then you can add a lot of 3D stuff there. You play with it, all those things once you're back home. Shadow, glow, soft edges, 3D formats, and it can make it very beautiful. Okay.
After class, I have a question to ask you about how to use it. I'll ask you after class.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah. So another thing is Pareto chart here. I'm gonna do that. How many of you know Pareto chart? Have you ever heard about 80-20 rule?
Yes.
Right. What is 80-20 rule?
It's
It
for credit, it's how much actual you really want to. 80% of your actual you want to consume, and 20% you don't want to consume.
No, it's not like that. Any other? It basically is very simple. All it's saying is your 80% of the problems comes from 20% of the activities in your organization. You control those 20% activities, you'll take care of your 80% of the problems. Okay. Or your 80% of the profit is coming from only 20% of the product line. You control those 20% of the product line or the products, you can control 80% of the profit. Does that make sense to you? So you want to find out what are those important 20%, and Pareto chart kind of help you that. Does that make sense to you? For example, here, if I look at this chart, I know like this particular product is making these four people. They are the one who are bringing almost 80% of the revenues. Are you guys with me? Rest of them are not bringing it. Okay? This is the cumulative. Okay, the first person is bringing most of the revenues, 35%. First person and second people combined bring 58%. First three people combined brings 73%. Okay, so obviously you want to reward them or do whatever you want to do, but these are the three kind of main people you have who are bringing almost 80% of the revenues. Rest of the peoples are not doing, or customer, this is a customer and a sales. Okay, so you want to focus obviously on this three most important customers. Okay, does that make sense to you? Okay, so let's do that. Often what you will be given is just this much data, so I will copy this one here. I'll paste it here. Okay, right, and then I'm gonna say, let's say I'm gonna create percent total. I'm gonna say person, and I'm gonna create a reference line. Okay, how do you create the percent total? That should be equals to whatever you have, right, divided by, I'm gonna say sum of, are you guys with me, sum of these numbers, right? That will give me the percentile. Are you guys with me? Right? So
And
that's,
you won't get a error because you use the same cell
no,
twice?
no.
So you will get one of those.
It's a typo. Okay, hold on. I'm missing one parenthesis. Okay.
I thought you would get one in relative.
No, I was missing the right parenthesis. Okay, but it's working, and I will go to the home, click on percentage here. Okay, and send this data down here. Okay, make sure this data is sorted in the descending order of the revenues. That's very important for creating the Pareto chart. Otherwise, you cannot create the Pareto chart. Okay, so that's one thing here. And then cumulative here, we can simply keep adding on. So first one is going to be as is. Second one will be equals to this one plus this one, right? And then I can just copy this one down. Okay, they should always add up to 100%, right? And reference line is our 80%. I'm just going to say, let's make it percentage here. So 80%, right? That's my reference line. That's going to tell me how many of these people or customers are bringing me 80% of my revenues. Are you guys with me? So I'm going to select this all, go to, I need this to one here. I can do the selective charting, right? So I just want these two. I don't want this total here. Okay.
I know how to do that, but you just did it and didn't say how you did it.
Select this two, then press the control.
You did it, you didn't
Yes,
say it.
yeah, for others doesn't know, you can press the control key and select other ranges that you want to plot. So I will go to insert here. Let's go to, let's say I'm going to say this one is again cluster chart, column chart here, right? And then I will go to change chart type here, right? I will go to combo here, right? I'll put this cumulative as a line on the secondary axis. This is also on the secondary axis, right? And I can do the line with markers. Okay, and basically you're done. So this is my 80% reference line, and I can see that these 3 or 4 people customers are bringing me most of the revenues, right? And you can then customize all these charts, and I'm assuming that you know how to do it. For example, select this series here, go to axis option here, right? Maximum I want to go to 100, so I'm just going to take out that one. Okay, so it's going to go to 100. Maximum, this one should go to 40, right? And I can say the major units is 10, So that looks a little better, right? And you can add all the bells and whistles here. For example, this one, I can go here, line, I want to decrease the line width here, maybe just 2, and select the dash type, let's say maybe this one, whatever you want, right? Right? So you can play with it and make it look like nicer. Okay. So here we are done with the Pareto chart here. Any questions? Okay. Let's come to the last one here. We're gonna do the solver. Okay. Now, has anybody here used solver before? You know what is a solver? Anybody here knows what is a solver? Okay.
In Excel?
In Excel. Okay. Solver is a tool that helps you find the optimal solution. Okay. For example, in this case, you have suppliers who are supplying you parts, right? Supplier 1, supplier 2, and supplier 3. You want to know how much you should order from each supplier so that you can minimize your cost, total cost. Does that make sense to you? Right? That's optimization problem because you cannot do it with your naked eyes. That this is particularly a very small problem. So you might be able to find the answer manually. But if the problem is too big, then you have to resort to the tools such as solver to find the optimal solution. Are you guys with me? So let's say you've been given a data set here. Oh my god. Just gonna increase a little bit here. Okay. Let's try to find the optimal solution here. For example, my objective here is to minimize this total cost. Okay. Are you guys with me? This is the table given to you. You have supplier 1, supplier 2, supplier 3. The units they are supplying to you. Okay. So fixed cost, their variable cost, and then this is your total cost for each supplier. Okay. So this total cost is basically nothing but the sum of this 3 costs, right? That's telling you how much you're gonna spend. Okay. This total units order is basically summation of the units supplied by all 3 suppliers. Are you guys with me? Now there are constraints. What we want to do, we know that we want to minimize the total cost here. Are you guys with me? But there are constraints. What are the constraints? Any given supplier can only supply at the max 3,500 units. Okay, so each of these 3 suppliers can supply no more than 3,500 units. They can supply 0, they can supply 1,000, they can supply 3,000, they cannot supply 4,000. Okay, supplier can only supply units in whole amount. That makes sense. There cannot be any fraction involved there, right? So each supplier will supply the whole number, and that makes sense. So we're going to put that restriction as well. And then your total cost should not exceed to 560,000. That's another budget constraint, that you can only spend 560,000. So this amount total cost should be less than 560, right? Total units that could be ordered from all suppliers equals 5,500 units. So that means this one here should be less than equals to should be exactly equals to 5,500. Are you guys with me? Right? So given this scenario, you want to optimize it. As it stands, is that a feasible solution?
No.
Why? Because
Total cost is more.
total cost is more. So let's do that. What are you going to do here? Let's change the quantity here. What if I make this 1,000 and this is 2,000 and we're going to 5,500 units, right? So this is 1,500. Am I violating any constraints here?
No. No.
No, right?
No.
So this looks like a feasible solution, right? No, this one, the total has to be 5,500.
Well, it has to be exactly.
Exactly. So this has to be, let's make it 2,500. All right. This is still not a feasible solution, right? What if you make this in 1500 and make this one 2000? Still not a valid solution, right? What if this goes to 1000 and 2500, and this goes to let's say 2000? You see that how difficult it is? You know, there are just simply so many permutation and combination that you will take days before you can hit the optimal solution, right? And that's where this solver comes into the picture. It can help you solve this problem optimally and tell you the best possible solution. Okay, so to solve this kind of problems, you need to understand 2-3 things. First thing is a changing cell. Okay, obviously we want to vary the units, right? We want to vary the units, and my objective is to minimize the total cost by varying these 3 units. Okay, and then I'm going to put bunch of constraints, these 4 constraints. Okay, and then I'll ask the solver to give me the optimal solution. Are you guys with me? So let's do that. Now, solver is an add-in. By default, it's not there. So if you don't see it there, you often go to file, options here, right? And then what we do here is go to add-ins here, and you see analysis toolpack VBA. I'll just click on that one, and don't say okay there, it will not work. You have to click on go. Okay, this is the button go there. So click on go here. I'll just select the 3 out of the 4. Euro currency, I don't need that one. Okay, so and then I'll say okay here. So remember, the first thing you have to do is to add this particular solver into your Excel spreadsheet. Okay, and say okay there. It's going to take a while, and if you go to the data here, you should see a solver. Make sense? Okay, so I click on the solver here. Right now I already have it, so I'm going to delete everything there. We then start from the scratch so that you know what's going on here. Okay, so what is my objective? To minimize the cost, right? So I'll select this cell here. Remember, we always minimize the cost, we always maximize the profit. Okay, so in this case we are dealing with the cost and we want to minimize the cost, so make sure this minimize minimum button option is checked or selected, right? And I want to change my variables which are given in this yellow cells, right? So I want to minimize my total cost by varying these units. So, and I'm going to set this problem to multiple constraints. So I'm going to start adding the constraints here. I will say add here. Let's say first one is any given supplier can at max supply 350 units. So I'm going to select this 3 supplier, right? Should be less than equals to 3500. Does it make sense to you? Okay, so that means none of them can supply more than 3500. Okay, so I'm going to say okay here. That's the first constraint we added. Make sense? Let's go to another add, and let's add the second constraint. Supplier can only supply units in whole number. So I'm going to say this 3 cell should be integer. Okay, so that's going to make sure those cells are integer whole numbers, not fractions. Okay, I'll say okay here. I will add another constraint here, and I'm going to say total cost should not exceed 560,000. So I'll say this one should be less than equals to 560,000, right? So that's my budget, right? And then I will add another one here, and I'll say total units order like the last one, must be equals to 5500. So this is my total units order must be equals to 5500, right? So this is your solver setup. Okay, so basically you're setting an objective, you are telling solver that you want to minimize it, then you also indicated your cells that you want to vary, right? And you put in those four constraints. Okay, and then we're gonna leave pretty much everything default here, grg non-linear, and sometimes it produces error. Okay, so if that's the case, try to solve it multiple times. Okay, that's a pretty Microsoft thing. So if I say solve here, it says it's not able to find a feasible solution, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try it again. Okay, it's not able to find it again. So let's change this one to, let's say, 1500. It should find it though. I don't know why it's not doing it, but I'm just going to change those numbers there, right? And again I will go to the solver, say solve here, not able to find it, right? Say okay here, and I will try it again. Aha, this time it found it, right?
You just kept doing it over and over again.
Yeah, you have to, why, I don't know. This is Microsoft thing. It should work, by default, even if you don't supply any values. And if you figure it out, please share with me. There could be some tweak here and there which I might be missing.
He gets confused like this.
Yes, ultimately it's coded by people like us, right? So maybe that's little thing in there. But the good thing is it found the solution, right? And I know that now I don't need to order anything from supplier 1. Supplier 2 will be supplying 2000. Supplier 3 will be supplying 3500, right? And all your constraints are met, right? Basically, when you do the solver, for example, here, let's just solve it, right? It gives you this answer report. Are you guys with me? And if you select that one and say okay here, it's gonna dump the values here. So basically it's telling you that, and you can see which one is, first one is the objective cell. The original value was 515, final value is 515. Maybe I started from 515 itself. Are you guys there? Okay, and it's gonna tell you the variable cells like integers, and final values are this. Then it's going to tell you which constraints are binding and which constraints are not binding. Binding constraints means you have used up that capacity to the fullest. For example, order total units should be 5500. We met that objective, so it's a binding constraint. Likewise, this one, supplier 3 is supplying 3500. That's a binding constraint. He cannot supply anything more, right? But other 3 constraints are non-binding. Are you guys with me? So there are slacks involved, which means they are short of. For example, this guy is not supplying anything, so there is a slack of 3500. Supplier 2 is supplying only 2000, so there is a slack of 1500. Are you guys with me? So it gives you a complete report per se. So this is pretty much it, and it's always good to color code the legend. So for example, changing cells should be any given color, mention it here. Objective cell should be a given color, so that when you put in the constraints and objectives, you know what you're doing, right? You can also save this model parameters, and to do that you go to the solver here, and there is something called load oblique save. Okay, so if you click on this one here, you just specify where you want to dump those things. Let's say here, and click on save. It's going to output those values there, right? Basically what it means is, first one is your objective function value, Second thing tells you how many decision variables are there, right? We have 3 decision variables, 1, 2, and 3, right? And then this tells you the constraints, whether they are satisfied or not. Okay, so you see first constraint, all the 4 constraints are satisfied. Okay. Next to, I don't know what are this, maybe these are used by solver option. When you load the model from this one, solver can pull up the data from these 2 cells. Okay, they are not as such supplying any meaningful information. Okay, so with this I'm gonna stop my recording here.